to the Russell Scott Show.
Jacque Fresco, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
What is the Venus Project?
The Venus Project is a design for a culture to bring all the nations together as one nation and to take care of the environment, the land, the atmosphere, the oceans, and the rivers, not polluting. If we can bring all the nations together under a new arrangement so that all the Earth's resources become the common heritage of all the world's people, that's the only way to the future. If you wish to avoid war, territorial disputes, you have to share the Earth's resources. Other than that, if you fail to do that, if few nations control most of the Earth's resources, you're going to have territorial disputes, no matter how many laws you enact.
Well, we already have politicians that take care of our problems. We vote them in, and they do the best they can.
I don't think they do the best they can. They don't know what to do. The Democrats can't communicate with the Republicans. Republicans can't communicate with Democrats. They can't communicate with anyone else in the world except through war. And that's a terrible way to solve a problem. It doesn't solve the problem. It only makes hatred grow.
What is the problem?
The problem is there's no design of the culture. Every man for himself. And as long as you have every man for himself, you're going to have trouble all over the world. Even in Egypt, if they succeed in getting a new government, they still don't know what to do. Our politicians don't have any answers. I ask a lot of politicians questions. How would you grow more food? They didn't know. How would you make cities so they're not as lopsided and as filthy as cities are today? They didn't know. In fact, I asked them a lot of questions which they couldn't answer. What is a relevant education? They didn't know. So I would say politicians don't really know anything, and I don't know what they're doing in government.
Do you not believe in the rights of the individual, or do you believe that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, as Spock said in Star Trek?
If you want a world without war, without poverty, unemployment, you have to change the way you think about all things. The Venus Project wants to declare all the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people. We think nothing else will do, ultimately. If few nations control the water, the arable land, you got to have territorial disputes. You got to have war. All that is a result of human stupidity.
With your ideas, does that not suppress the rights of the individual?
Well, by the rights, you mean if a man wants to be a Nazi, he can, and if he wants to be a racist, he can?
Those rights, yes, sir.
All those rights, it won't work. It won't work if you let everybody do whatever they wanted to do. You'd have nothing but chaos. The same thing you have today. Human stupidity prevails.
But is not stupidity a matter of opinion?
No, it's a matter of knowing what is relevant. People don't know what is relevant. They learn different things. If you were raised as a baby in Nazi Germany, if you never saw anything else, you'd be a Nazi. And it isn't your fault. It's the culture you were raised in. If you were raised in England, you'd speak with an English accent. If you're raised in Germany, you speak with a German accent. And in Australia, you say, how are you, mate? In other words, you reflect your culture. You don't reflect individuality. There's no such thing as individuality. All that is BS. And that's put upon people to keep them calm. Every culture tries to control people and make them alike. In that way, you can control them if you make them alike. You can talk about individuality, but you don't know what the hell you're talking about. What do you mean by individuality?
What about genetics? I think we've seen studies where you have identical twins. They've been separated at birth, and yet 2,000 miles apart, they'll have the same traits. They'll wear similar types of clothes, be interested in similar types of music.
They're similar because the cultures are similar. They're all monetary systems. And as long as you use money, the system is basically corrupt. Because you can pay off politicians, judges, you can get the people elected by having more money than another party. It's not democratic at all. There never has been a democracy anywhere in the world. I know very few people that live in the kind of house they want to live in. They live in what they can afford. They drive the kind of car they can afford, not what they want. So you never had a democracy. In fact, George Washington had 300 slaves. He would be run out of town today if he were alive. Did you know that Harry Truman was a hat salesman? Now what the hell is he doing as president?
But he was the man in power, and the buck stopped there. Those who are in power make the decisions.
They did a good job brainwashing you. A very good job, I must say.
You have a solution to all of this, and I think a large part of it lies in the resource-based economy.
Yes. Well, a resource-based economy has no separate nations, no artificial boundaries that separate people. There's no race prejudice, no bigotry, and no social ladder that you climb. Everybody is treated well, and no money. As long as you do away with money and make things available to people, they don't steal. I know that's hard to understand. There never was a culture like that. But as long as people have money, they can buy things. They can buy things that you can't buy. They can live in the kind of house that you can't afford. So you don't have a democracy unless you have equal opportunity in education, where you don't have to pay to become a doctor. You don't have to pay to become a lawyer. All universities are free, and we try to educate people to their highest potential, and that's the best you can do. And you must not pollute the environment, the air, the ground. You must not spray poisons on plants. It goes down to the water table. Everything we do is wrong. That's why you have so much trouble in the world. America has the largest incarceration of criminals than any other country because we have an environment that produces criminals. See, you were brought up to believe that every man is an individual. You were brought up that every man can do whatever he wants to do. This isn't true. The schools that you go to teach you to become a cog in the wheel, so you serve the interest of the monetary system. That's what all cultures do. If you were raised as a baby by the headhunters of the Amazon, if you never saw anything else, you would be a headhunter. When you say, well, can I bring out a new way of thinking? No, you can't. You can only reflect your culture. If you ask an Eskimo, what do you want? You can have anything you want. He would never ask for a Mercedes.
But Jacque Fresco comes out of the United States.
But he didn't. He wasn't brought up in your schools. He wasn't brought up in your system. He traveled a lot around the world and different countries, and he learned a lot of different things. That's what makes a person broad. If you want a child to be creative, you have to show him a great many different kinds of things. You have to show him pictures of insects, grasshoppers, centipedes, spiders. The more you show him, the broader his imagination. If he's brought up in a small county in America where he never sees anything much, he's never been to a zoo, he has very little imagination. Imagination is based on broad exposure. The more you see, the broader your mind.
As my grandmother said, the more you read, the more you are.
Yeah, but most books are very much the same. They have nothing new to say.
Will this degree of freedom exist in the Venus Project?
Much more freedom. Everybody would be a contributor toward the well-being of all the world's people. There'd be no selfishness. There'd be no kids say, hey, you, I can run faster than you. I bet I can fight you. That's when kids are brought up in a competitive system. The future will be cooperative, not competitive. They will share ideas. That's what makes the world go around, the sharing of ideas. And we don't have that. When you have a patent on a thing, you prevent other countries from using it. Did you ever think of it that way? In the future, all patents will belong to the world, and they'll use whatever can make life richer, better, deeper understanding. We don't even know what makes a human being do what he does. And you don't inherit anything from your parents. All you inherit, the shape of the nose, the color of the eyes, and the reflex actions. When you hit your knee, it moves. But you do not inherit values. Bigotry, prejudice, greed is all learned by your culture. If you had access to the necessities of life without money, you would not steal. People steal as a result of controlled mechanisms that control your standard of living and give you a guilt complex if you disobey the teachings of the law of the land, and make you feel guilty about things that are normal, that are reflexively normal. I say religion is one of the ways to hold back development. You know, when a mother says to a child, "You're a Catholic, you don't play with that Lutheran," she's hurting the child. She's dividing the culture. All people mean well, but they don't know what to do. It's what I've been trying to tell you.
Are you proposing then that religion would be eliminated?
No, not eliminated. They'd be educated to understand how life forms, how plants grow, how nature works, not some mythical structure that people invent. Some guy that lives up in the clouds that made a man and a woman. And if you obey the law, you live forever. That's a nonsensical concept. Imagine you living forever in heaven. Say you're 70,000 years old, you wouldn't want to talk to anybody anymore. You've heard it all. Do you know what I'm saying? The concept is ridiculous. They say God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that others might have eternal life and not perish. Eternal life is the most painful thing man can have. They don't understand what the hell they're reading in the Bible. It says in the Bible, "Thou shalt not kill." It doesn't say you can kill Wednesdays and Thursdays. It also says, "Love your enemy. If a man strikes you, turn the other cheek." It also says in the Bible, "Do not judge, otherwise you will be judged." Because you don't know what makes a criminal, you don't know what makes a serial killer, and yet you judge these people. The people that are the most criminal would be judges, lawyers, people like that are criminal, because they don't understand what shapes human values, and they put them in jail. That's the worst thing you can do with a human being, is put them in jail. What is needed is mass rehabilitation. And we think we can bring up everybody to be decent and ethical.
You've stumbled upon a topic, and that would be the issue of gun control. We've heard about the Sandy Hook massacre and the recent increase in shootings in schools.
Oh, all that is part of your culture. Cowboy pictures never sit down and discuss anything. They have two guns, one on each side. They don't solve problems. They eliminate the people that are different than they are. And that's what war is. War is one of the biggest rackets in the world. Read Smedley Butler's book, War is a Racket. He's a top-notch general who wrote that book. But most people are not exposed to those values. All the newscasts are managed. They want you to, what they want you to hear, they play on the news. There's no such thing as the enemy. There are people that are different than we are. And if they're different, we don't like them. If you were brought up in the Arab world, it'd be normal to have as many wives as you can afford. But you weren't brought up in the Arab world, so you think, gee, my God, what an awful society. You weren't brought up in France, so you think France is not as good as the U.S. So when you're brought up by a nation that tells you this is the greatest country in the world, God's on our side, all that is bullshit. It's propaganda. God is not on anybody's side. And you can't say, God bless America. Who the hell are you to tell God who to bless? Nobody looks at it that way. They're all uniformly brought up, and they think uniformly. All your movies, all your books are always the same story over and over again. Love stories that end up with a couple walking into the sunset hand in hand. There's no such life as that. Life is full of problems, and they will be as long as you go on thinking the way you're brought up to think. And if you were a headhunter, if I said to you, doesn't it bother you it has 5 shrunken heads? You might say, yes, my brother has 20. Are you mean? No. That's where you were brought up.
Does the end justify the means?
No, not at all.
So how do you get this done, Jacque? I mean, because I see you've got about 1 billion plus Muslims that aren't going to like to be educated on religion.
If you don't know how to do it, you're right. But there are ways of doing it. Muslims use telephones. Muslims use electric lights. There are things that they can use that'll make their life better. You have to introduce them to it. When the Wright brothers made the airplane, they had to introduce the principles of flight to people, millions of people that didn't know anything about airplanes. When Edison invented the electric light, he had to introduce people to what the hell it was. They didn't know what electric light was. When Tesla invented the wireless, he didn't walk over to people and say, by the way, we now have wireless. He had to teach them what wireless was. And that's a big teaching job ahead. We have to inform the public as to what is relevant to their lives and what is baloney. And what they're getting today is baloney. Patriotism, which Einstein said is a disease. It separates people. If you don't know what Einstein said, if you don't know what the great thinkers of the world are thinking about, you're not educated. And we feel that we are not civilized yet. The Venus Project feels as long as you have armies, navies, prisons, and police, you're not civilized. We want to civilize people, give them back their mind. And it's not an easy task. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. Our cities are chaotic in design. They're not even insane. So the cities of the future will be round, with everything in the core, in the middle, that the people need. The city will be designed to be immersed in a lovely garden, a lovely park. There'd be no parks. The whole city would be a park. In other words, you don't even live the right way in this culture. We won't even make the history books of the future. We're so crude.
Well, what about things like the Great Pyramid, the Statue of Liberty?
We would preserve all that for the future.
We would preserve it. Okay.
The pyramids, we would enclose them in a huge dome and take care of them. To try to show children what the past was like. We'd preserve some of the old cities to show kids what people used to live in, just like you look at historical systems. But we build new cities from the ground up with fireproof buildings, so you don't need fire engines. With no more lawnmowers, we would design grass that doesn't grow more than 1.25 inches. That's what you want. You don't want a lawnmower. You want grass that doesn't grow any taller than 1.25 inches. We have all those methods. We could have built it in 1927 if the public were educated. They are not educated. That's a big job that we have to do, and we've been working on it. We went on a global lecture tour, and we talked in almost every country in the world. And everybody we talked to loved the Venus Project. In fact, it was written up in magazines in different languages. We have thousands of people all over the world now that know about the Venus Project, except in America. Very few people know about it.
The Buffetts and the Trumps of the world aren't going to like the idea of cashing in their chips. How do you change those people?
You don't have to change. I'm going to tell you that if you listen. We are automating most industrial plants in America. Are you familiar with that? And the more you automate, the less purchasing power people have, the less jobs they have. And that's what's happening all over the world. People are having trouble. Society is breaking down in America, not only America, England, France, Germany. They're all having trouble. Egypt. Because the system is coming to an end. The system doesn't work. It never did work.
Yes, but how do you convert the non-believers?
The non-believers don't have to be converted. When you don't have enough work, you close your factory, or the government takes over. And that's what's happening. Factories are being shut down because of automation. Not only automation, but contracting outside the country. Sending stuff to China to be made for less money. If you keep doing that, you're going to have less and less people working. Do you understand that? You don't need to kill anybody. You don't need to kill the capitalist. The capitalist is on the way out. It's happening all over the world. You have to keep up with world news, not just the American news.
Just so I understand it a little better, life in this proposed society, would we all live a higher standard of living than we have now?
Yes.
I think people have the idea that this could be like a communist, totalitarian, authoritarian.
Communists use money. They have banks. They have armies and navies, prisons, police, Siberia. We don't have any of those things in the Venus Project. It has nothing in common with communism or socialism. That's what they tell you to try to get you to turn against it. The standard of living will be higher for everyone on earth. There'd be no poor people, no hungry people, no goodwill industries, no charity anymore. We would take care of every person. We have more than enough resources to take care of everybody in the world. It's just that it's brought up with misinformation.
People vote with their dollar in this system. As you said, if the factory isn't producing anymore, it closes down. People have decided that they want organic food, and we see these things popping up all over the place, including your own backyard in Venus. Given enough time with the education, would we not find ourselves in this type of society anyhow through the monetary system?
We may involve one another in a nuclear war and put an end to civilization. Society is very stupid to manufacture nuclear weapons. They can't solve problems. They can only damage the earth. Anyone that knows anything about nuclear power will understand that.
Will we evolve into a resource-based economy?
No, we'll probably kill each other. We will not evolve to a resource-based economy. We're moving in the wrong direction.
So where does the intervention come in? Do you approach the UN? Do they enforce this? Do we set up a prototype city?
Yes, that's what we have to do. We have to set up a prototype and invite people from all over the world to come and visit it, and build 3 in Russia, 3 in China, 3 in France, and England, and then gradually merge.
We've been wanting to do a Venus Project University or a city for a long time. You know, Jacque talked about these ideas in 1974 on the Larry King show that's widely popular on the internet now, our interview. But he was talking about this long before that, and organizing society toward a specific direction that helps people and the environment, which is quite different than what we're doing today. And, you know, society is just beginning to catch up with him. Conditions are changing where things are falling apart and people are understanding that this is not working. So they're beginning to look around and say, you know, we need something else. Politicians aren't taking care of the problems. They don't even know what the problems are. It's not working for people. But they don't give an alternative. They haven't begun to do the study, and what do we do? How do we acquire our behavior? How do we generate children that are creative and cooperative? How do we develop a city so it's clean, efficient, redundancy for safety? and a very beautiful place to live. You know, they haven't put it all together. They know this is not working, but Jacque, from a very early age, when he grew up during the Great Depression, he's 96 now, almost 97, he saw that the conditions were terrible, and he saw that the goods and services were still there, and people wanted to work, but they didn't have money in their pocket. And he concluded then that it was the monetary system that doesn't work. Money doesn't relate to anything. You can't eat it. You can't build anything out of it. It's a fictitious thing that has nothing to back it up. It's like a real Ponzi scheme that people accept as real. We have the goods and services. We have the manufacturing plants. We have the intelligence to create a beautiful world so nobody is in hunger or poverty or deprived of anything. And that's what the Venus Project is about. So Jacque has been working, as you know, all his life on what to do. How do you make a society that does just what I mentioned? And people we have a lot of people who understand the significance of this direction now, and the amount of work that has gone into it, and the relevance of it. So it is beginning to get very popular now.
How many years do you think we are away from this system? And do you think it will ever happen?
Well, most of the media is controlled. General Electric owns NBC. As long as you have that, you're not going to have the truth. We sell cigarettes because of the interest the government collects on taxes, but cigarettes produce heart disease and cancer. You couldn't buy cigarettes in a resource-based economy. You couldn't buy junk food in a resource-based economy. You can't use food preservatives in a resource-based economy. And you don't give people pills to quiet them down. You have to deal with real problems. And the pill industry, the drug industry, is a commercially corrupt organization in most cases. They don't know. Psychologists try to adjust you to this system. They have to be stupid to do that. The same with psychiatrists. They have to be extremely ignorant of the processes whereby people learn. You know, you learn from your parents. Don't play with that damn Polak. Don't play with that damn Jew. Don't play with that goddamn Italian. Your parents mean well, but they don't know what to tell you. All people create engineering. Aeronautical engineering is the same in China as it is in Germany. It doesn't differ. There's no American way to build airplanes. There's an engineering way to do it. And that's what we teach. Only that which is real. We don't say America is the greatest country on earth. We say America is isolated from Europe and has had very little attacks. Very little. But you didn't know that the Japanese are brought up by their religion. Their religion says the Japanese were put here by God to rule the world. Did you know that?
No.
Well, if you're brought up to that point of view, that makes you very different. Do you understand? It's the point of view that nations teach that has to be corrected. Everything that you learn in this system is basically corrupt. So I'm saying this is true all over the world, not just America. The whole world is collapsing.
Roxanne, I'd like to hear about your new documentary, Paradise or Oblivion.
Yes, it's a 48-minute free documentary on our website, thevenusproject.com, or paradiseoroblivion.com. And it introduces people to some of these values and this direction, and actually shows a lot of Jacque's designs, animations, to show what a resource-based economy would look like, what the possibilities are in the future when we learn how to work cooperatively. You know, as Jacque was saying, everyone that's taught in their own cultures, they're taught values that perpetuate that culture. So you're taught about individuality and competition in a monetary system where everybody has to take care of themselves, everybody steps over one another to get their needs. If you have a car accident, then somebody makes a couple $1,000 off of your misery fixing the car. Same thing with dental care. somebody makes a lot of money if you need a root canal, in the United States anyway. I'm sure it's much more sane in Canada. But, you know, so the values that you're given and you think are so upstanding and so right about individuality and free will and competition and survival of the fittest, they go along to perpetuate this culture. You wouldn't be taught how to cooperate and how to eliminate patents and share ideas. You wouldn't make it in this culture. If you tried to share ideas in terms of your corporations, how you are more advanced than another person, another corporation, you'd lose a competitive edge and you'd lose money. So as long as the bottom line is money and not, yes, Jacque is saying profit and money, and not the well-being of people, you're going to get all the problems that are generated today. So if you want a different type of person and a society that we are advocating, a resource-based economy, the main aim is the well-being of people and the environment, protection of the environment. That's quite different than what's today.
Jacque, you're feistier today than you were last time. Are you frustrated with the ignorance of the public?
Not at all. Not at all. Because that's a byproduct of culture. It's not my fault. I didn't make them that way.
But it must be difficult sometimes. I mean, things move at a very slow pace.
No, you have to educate people. You have to accept that as a challenge. Just like before the age of aviation, man tried to build a flying machine. He tried many different systems. A lot of them did not work. Finally, the Wright brothers, based on the mistakes and errors of other people, finally solved the problem. But the Chinese had man-carrying kites over 1,000 years ago.
That I did not know. Wow.
You know that. A lot of people don't know what other people have done. Louis Pasteur was a Frenchman. Einstein was a German Jew. He gave us a theory of relativity. And then you have all the wonderful contributions made by all nations. The Arab world gave us mathematics, a great deal of mathematics and geometry. And so the contributions made by the world is what we recognize, not just America. You teach children that America does everything. America invents everything. Not true. We depend, when people came from foreign countries, they brought mathematics. An Arab named algebra gave us algebra. An Egyptian gave us the zero. In other words, many nations enable us to grow. The Germans gave us a printing press. Do you understand? It isn't all America. So you have to learn to appreciate other nations. When you're brought up to be patriotic, that separates people and makes them feel their country is the greatest. Greatest at what?
Jacque, last month I had the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan on my program. His claim that Europeans are in fact the superior race. Love to hear what you'd have to say on that.
They're more intelligent than American people, but I wouldn't accept the Ku Klux Klan.
They're given a broader range of information in the United States, yes, but not in the way that the Klan says that they're superior. There isn't any superior race. Exactly.
I think they're saying that that Caucasians or Europeans are somehow genetically superior. That's nonsense.
No.
And it's a good explanation because it generates the Klan. It shows you that they're not superior at all.
Jacque, a question for you. You're a logical guy, so you see the logic in things like genetically modified grass, for example. What about genetically modified people?
Food, no, I'm against that. I'm against that because it takes a long time to find the negative aspects of it. We're not ready for that yet. We have to do long studies before you begin to modify people.
I would want to add, too, anything that's developed within a monetary system when the need is really profit and not for the good of people, then it becomes corrupt, and it could become very dangerous.
Yeah, I like Jacque's line. He doesn't know if his liver needs to come out or if the doctor needs to buy a new yacht.
Yes.
Where do people learn more about the Venus Project?
We have a very extensive website, thevenusproject.com, or our Facebook. And we have tours on Saturday where Jacque speaks for over 4 hours. People come from all over the world. We also have an extensive library and store on our website. We have free ebooks. We have reading lists. And check out the store too, because we have books and videos, and we still live in the monetary system. We have no outside backers. So everything that people purchase goes to help support the project so we can make more products as well, although we do give a lot away on the website.
How can people help you the most? Would it be through the donation? I want to see this prototype city get underway, frankly. That's what I think is the most important thing, because if you can get 100 people in there and show that it works, there's no reason not to have a second one, and then 4, and then, then it grows from there.
Well, we are working on that. We're working on a very extensive business proposal right now with CAD drawings and prices. We're developing that right now, and we'll see what happens. We have lots of announcements to be made later, and we are working on that as well. www.thevenusproject.com. And also there's the book, The Best That Money Can't Buy, which I think is a great overview book for anybody who's interested in this. Jacque Fresco, Roxanne Meadows, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
We really appreciate it.
We thank you very much.